Stop the clock, friend. Picture this. It's 3 a.m. The hallway smells like hand sanitizer, a surgeon is rolling a president toward the operating room, and the nuclear briefcase is basically tapping its little combination lock, like, so, who signs for me right now? You and I are about to poke the weirdest question in American civics. Were there minutes when the United States had no president? Buckle in, I brought a stopwatch and a very polite sense of panic. Short answer, you can tell your group chat. On parchment, almost never. In real life, sometimes there's a tiny power gap, a few minutes or hours when the authority exists, but nobody's fully at the wheel yet. That sliver is where history gets sweaty palms and where our continuity rules either shine or wobble. Walk with me. First, let's speedrun the rulebook you were too cool to memorize. A presidential term begins by law, but a president doesn't exercise power until taking the oath. That's why the oath moment isn't just ceremonial, it's the keys in the ignition click you can almost hear. The 20th Amendment later tidied the calendar so we don't leave power loitering in winter. Then comes the superhero cape of continuity, the 25th Amendment, with two big buttons. Section 3 is the polite one. The president says, I'm going under anesthesia. VP, you're acting president until I wake up. Section 4 is for when the president can't say anything, stroke, coma, you name it, so the VP and cabinet declare it, and the VP becomes acting president until the boss can resume. Clear on paper, but human beings still have to call, sign, fax, email, and not freak out on live TV. Easy, right? Time for a favorite party myth. Ever hear that Senator David Rice Atchison was president for a day in 1849 because President Polk's term ended at noon on Sunday and Zachary Taylor delayed his oath to Monday? Cute story. Not reality. Taylor's term had legally begun, and no one swore in Atchison to anything beyond a good nap. The country didn't faceplant because the oath took the Sunday off. File that under myths love a vacuum, the Constitution hates one. If someone drops the Atchison tale at dinner, you have my permission to raise an eyebrow so high it needs air traffic control. Let's talk the tightest handoffs. Death to oath. Zero drama edition, well, as little drama as mortality allows. 1841, William Henry Harrison dies. John Tyler doesn't ask to act like president, he becomes president, period. That's a precedent, not a vibe. 1865, after Lincoln is assassinated, Andrew Johnson is sworn in the next morning because even heartbreak doesn't get to stall the republic. 1963, JFK is killed in Dallas. Lyndon Johnson takes the oath on Air Force One before takeoff. That image exists to shrink the operational gap between who holds the office and who can legally act. Now, the messiest chapter. Incapacity before the 25th existed. Deep breath, we'll be respectful here. 1881, James A. Garfield is shot. He lingers for weeks. Everyone wants to be decent and ends up being indecisive. Authority technically exists, but nobody wants to move the pen. Think of it as a government on hold music. 1919, Woodrow Wilson suffers a massive stroke. The public gets curated updates. Edith Wilson becomes the gatekeeper, deciding what the president sees. Interready not a coup, more like an improvised patch when the operating system lacked a user manual. 1955-57. Dwight Eisenhower rides a rough stretch. Heart attack, surgery, stroke scares. He and Vice President Nixon draft a gentleman's agreement for what to do if Ike can't function. It isn't law, but it becomes the moral prototype for the 25th. These weren't scandals so much as beta tests, painful ones that taught the system how to be smarter. Okay, now cue the press room facepalm. 1981, President Reagan is shot and rushed into surgery. The 25th is not activated. At the White House, Secretary of State Al Haig tells cameras, I'm in control here, which, was not how the succession order worked. What we had wasn't a constitutional crisis, it was a communications crisis. The lesson you and I can tattoo on the civics brain. In a storm, process beats improv. Every time. Then the 25th starts doing practical, boring hero work, and boring is exactly what you want. 1985, Reagan heads to surgery and sends letters transferring power to Vice President George H.W. Bush. Scholars still argue whether he technically invoked the 25th or just did a very convincing impression of it. But functionally, it was the first real Section 3 handoff, 2002 and 2007. President George W. Bush uses Section 3 twice for routine procedures. Vice President Cheney is acting president for a few hours. The Union stays united. And the biggest drama is probably someone misplacing the remote. 2021, President Biden uses Section 3 during a medical procedure. Vice President Kamala Harris becomes acting president for about 85 minutes, making history as the first woman to hold presidential power in the U.S., even briefly. The headline here isn't fireworks, it's reliability. In constitutional engineering, reliable is the new exciting. So, did America ever have minutes with no president? It depends on how you define no. Legally, the line of authority is almost always unbroken. Terms start when they start, the VP is ready, Sections 3 and 4 exist, and the oath is waiting like a preheated oven. Operationally, there can be a power gap. Those liminal minutes when the OR doors close, the letter hasn't been signed yet, the cabinet is still on hold, or someone hesitates to push the Section 3 button because it's just a quick procedure. That's not no president, that's no one fully switched on yet. Thin ice, not open water. Here's the good news. You can carry into your next argument with that cousin who forwards chain emails. Today, continuity is choreographed. We've got secure comms, pre-drafted letters awaiting, fill-in-the-blank names and timestamps, tabletop exercises with color-coded binders, and a grown-up norm that says, use Section 3 for routine stuff. Don't be a hero, be a professional. We move from who's in charge. Check tab 3, sign line 2, keep the lights on. The machine hums because earlier crises made it learn the sheet music. You might be wondering, okay, Eagle, what about the oath itself? If the term starts at noon and the oath is at 12:03, are those 3 minutes spicy? Great instinct. The office belongs to the person as scheduled, but the power to act depends on the oath. That's why modern inaugurations treat the oath like a spacebar restart. It's precise, it's public, it's the legal on switch. If you've ever watched the Chief Justice lean in and thought, this feels like plugging in a national toaster, you are not alone. I too have imagined the ding. Let's loop you back through the highlight reel we just flew past so you can flex later. Atchison Day, myth. Tyler in 1841, precedent setter, VP becomes president at once. Johnson after Lincoln, oath next morning. The country keeps moving through grief. LBJ after JFK, oath on a plane, because wheels don't wait for history. Garfield and Wilson, the cautionary age of ambiguity that birthed the 25th. Eisenhower Nixon, the gentleman's bridge. Reagan 1981, don't wing succession on live TV. Reagan 1985. Bush 2002 over 2007. Biden 2021. Section 3 inches action. Polite, boring, glorious. And because you and I care about tone, hospital rooms and funerals are sacred. We can joke about process binders, memos, that one person who always says, per my last email, but will stay respectful with people. Leadership is human. Continuity is a team sport. If you want a sequel, say the word and I'll bring charts, coffee, and a Section 3 divided by Section 4 referee jersey. We'll do the episode where movies get it wrong and the quiet paperwork gets it right. Drop Section 3 or Section 4 in the comments so I know which door to open first. And for the thumbnail skimmers who just arrived at this sentence, yes, we actually answered the question. On parchment, no empty chair. In hallways, sometimes a breath where the chair spins, and then click the system sits down. Alright friend, unfreeze the clock. America's continuity has a pulse. And as long as somebody keeps the letters pre-signed and the phone's plugged in, your late night pizza arrives, the lights turn green, and the orbital debris of history keeps missing us by just enough. See you next flight.